is Jane. I'm from Canada. My religious affiliation is United Church and Abrahamic Faiths. I'm trying to study the Abrahamic faiths. My first summer school was 2020. Is that right? Am I? Yes. And I guess a year ago today, a number of us were at the World Parliament. Yes. So I'm looking forward to the sessions in the next 2 weeks, and nice to meet you.
Thanks, Jane. Benedetta, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. Hello to everybody. I'm Benedetta. I'm originally from Italy, but I live in France. I work there. I do a PhD in literature, but on the side, I'm a comic artist. And I'm currently in Israel till the end of August because I volunteer for Women Wage Peace, and I'm staying near Netanya. My family is Catholic and I grew up Catholic, but I'm currently converting to Judaism. So I consider myself Jewish, but I'm not technically yet Jewish.
Thanks, Benedetta. Monse.
Hi, I'm Montse. I'm not an English native speaker. I'm Catalan. I'm from the province of Barcelona in Spain. And it's the third time I'm here. I'm here in the summer school. The first year was by Zoom. Last year I was here in Jerusalem. And this year I came to Jerusalem because I couldn't wait for 1 year more. And I'm here and I'm Catholic, but I like to talk to all humans of all faiths and even people who don't believe, because I'm surrounded by many people who don't want to hear about God and don't pray, but I'm fine with them, and everyone has his or her feelings and belief.
Thanks, Monse. David, you need to unmute.
Unmute. Before I start, Nayana Shach, I send you a question. Okay, my name is David Goren, and I am a Buddhist monk. I'm also a Jew, and I practice Reform Judaism. So I practice both. Yes. So I'm an interfaith figure by nature and by heart. So this is what I am. And my background is in science. As I said, I have a doctoral degree in science, but now I'm full-time in the spiritual world. And I'm very active also in all the protests in Israel, both against the government, against the war and for the refugees. So I find myself quite active lately.
Thank you, David. Thank you. And Nayana.
Yeah, I was busy answering his question. So, my name is Nayana, and so the religion. So my upbringing is Jain. In India, I grew up in India as a Jain, but like I feel like I would call myself like someone who practices universal spirituality, and I practice Vipassana meditation for last 25 years or so, and as taught by Goenkaji. And I'm currently a trustee on the Parliament of the World's Religions. So someone mentioned Parliament, so I guess we must have been experiencing the same energy. And
where are you based, Nayana? Where in the world
Cincinnati,
are you?
Cincinnati, Ohio, in the US. Yeah.
Thank you. Maria.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's wonderful to be here. This is my first time joining. I am from currently I was raised Catholic. I was born in Mexico and now I live in California and live here most of my life. And I work doing social justice work and environmental justice for women congregations of women religious. And that's how I learned about this wonderful program. I live in Los Angeles, but I work in County of Orange. Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Rita. Where is she? Oh no, I've lost Rita. I think maybe in unmuting herself, she disconnected. Oh dear. Oh no, there she is. Rita, you're at the bottom, but you're not. There you go.
Finally. My name is Rita. I'm a Canadian, but I've lived in Jerusalem now many years. I'm a Roman Catholic, and I belong to a religious congregation, the Sisters of Zion. And I love being here in Jerusalem, but at the moment it's a very hard time. So we're certainly praying for a solution to all of our problems. Thank you.
Amen. Imam. Imam?
Good morning again. Thank you, Sister Pete, for invitation, for allowing me to introduce myself. I am Imam Arif Huskic, founder of two interfaith organizations which operates nationally and internationally, especially helping Detroit metro area, helping homeless and people in poverty, promoting peace, love, unity, and mutual understanding. That is our kind of goal more than anything else. I'm originally from Bosnia and Herzegovina. I live in the United States for the last 27 years and proud citizen of the United States. As I said, those two organizations that we have established healing prayer for humanity since coronavirus hit the ground. We hit a Zoom. So this Friday will be 227 Fridays together in this program, Healing Prayer for Humanity. So we believe that prayers are stronger weapon in the world, that prayer can destroy all evils. So we should not let evil to command us, but our prayers and our human brotherhood, whatever we are from various faiths and different national backgrounds, we are brothers and sisters. We are children of Adam and Eve, and I pray that we remain as one family under God Almighty.
Amen. Imam, I have to ask, and I'm sure others are asking too, what I was seeing, I wasn't seeing you speaking. I was hearing you, but is there a second person in the room perhaps we're not seeing, or what's the story? Can you
I
share
can
it?
see myself on screen, just I see everyone. Is there anyone that can see me on video?
But we see you, but we don't see your lips moving, which means that there's a higher power talking through you, and you just have to be present there. So
Thank you, I am.
Thank you.
I wonder though if we should change your name, Ministry and Spiritual Centers, because then it's the spiritual center who's talking and not you. Maybe you could change your name on Zoom?
Ministry and Spirituality Center for Humanity is one of our interfaith organizations, and Commonwealth Alliance Clergy Interfaith Organization is another one.
But we'd like to know the person.
What is your personal name?
Imam Arif Huskic. Imam is my title. I am AM, and first name is Arif, spells out as A-R-I-F. Last name Huskic, H-U-S-K-I-C.
Now look at the magic. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry, Johanna, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Sara Johanna, and I belong to the
Lutheran church in Finland, but I have been working many years in Israel in Christian organization called FELM, but right now I am in Finland, and help of will of God, I will be back end of the year in Jerusalem.
We
Nice
miss
to meet
you.
you all.
Thank you. Trevor. You're muted. Oh, there you go. Oh, but we're not hearing you, Trevor. It's not working. Trevor, can you play around with your microphone? See what you can do, because we're
Or
not
use the
hearing
other
you.
one, because we have two Trevors.
Yes, maybe the other one will give us sound. Meanwhile, perhaps if you don't mind, while Trevor fiddles around, Jean, would you like to introduce yourself?
So, hello everybody, morning, afternoon, evening. My name is Jean. I come from England. My mother was Jewish, but many, many years ago when I was born, it was during the Second World War, so she didn't say anything about it. It was only when I was a teenager I discovered. And but she and my father sent us to the Anglican Church, but when I was 20, when I was 17, I became a Catholic, Roman Catholic. And then when I was 21, I joined the Franciscan congregation, with which I'm still a member, but I have been in Zambia for many years. Presently as in Lusaka, the capital of Zambia, and our ministries are varied. Myself, I'm in a secondary school and trying to bring God's love to all who are there. And there are many different Christian churches, Muslim, etc. in the school. So to try and bring oneness and unity and love.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jean. Trevor, do you want to give another try? See whether we can hear you. No. Therese, hi.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. My name is Therese. I'm living in Israel. I'm Jewish. And my field is a relationship between Judaism and Christianity. I wrote my PhD on this issue, how Catholic, especially Catholic theology changed after the Shoah. And by the way, I'm also the wife of Alon. So I'm very happy to be with you. I know some of you, and I always enjoy to be in this summer school.
Thank you.
Therese has been here with us since the first summer school in 1996.
Wow.
Do you hear me?
Now we hear you. Trevor, please introduce yourself.
I'm coming and going here. I hear you, then I don't. But do you hear me now better?
Yes, yes.
Oh. Okay, but I don't hear you.
Oh, we hear
Oh,
you.
my system is really messed up now because I had to switch to my cell phone, my mobile phone, to get connected. I just switched off. I was switched onto my computer, and I had two connections in terms of connected to the summer school. So I had to switch off my computer now, but now I'm on my mobile phone. You are hearing me, but I don't hear you. Anyway, I can introduce myself if you're hearing me. The
Trevor,
lady that
exactly
introduced
how we are
herself
with
just
God.
before I was supposed to come on was from Finland, and I'm pleased to announce that I was in Turku this year in Finland in May of this year, attending the the European Bibliodrama Summer School on that side of the world. So I had that connection with Finland also now. I am an ordained minister of the Moravian Church from South Africa, originally Cape Town. I have been living in Bonn, Germany for 12 years now. So at this point in time, or rather for the past 12 years, I've been a minister without portfolio, but still attending to projects and assisting with projects also here in Germany. But for the past 12 years, I have been a teacher, a secondary school teacher, and also with a German Development Service as a Sprachtrainer, that is the word being used, a language teacher or a facilitator for the international projects. I'm also an alumni of the summer school, attending 2019, was it, Peter? It was a friendship across religions, looking at that, interreligious friendship. And last year, in fact, climate repentance. So I'm a very proud alumni also of the summer school. In closing, I would just like to announce that I'm also involved with the European Bibliodrama Network, and have been for the past 5 years, and will be going to Poland next month. And our theme for the workshop there, for the 5-day workshop, is love never ends. 1 Corinthians 13b. Love never ends. That is the overall theme, and the different groups will be looking at that particular text in different ways and different angles, different perspective. What does love mean for us today? Like our human dignity topic and theme, Paul reminds us, faith, hope, all of that together, including love. Love never ends. Sometimes we give up on faith, or we give up on hope, but we can never give up on love that we need every day in our dialogue with each other, in our meeting each other, in our being connected with each other, like Elijah Interfaith Summer School has instilled this idea of loving one another.
Thank you. Thank you, Trevor. Fazia, I think you're last, but not least for sure.
Good morning. Shalom, salam alaikum from Toronto, Canada. And so my name is Fazia, and this is my third summer school. Praise God that I'm able to join this year from Zoom. I was not expecting to, because I thought it would be in person. So I'm very happy to be here. And my background, I think we're supposed to say, I have done studies in Christianity and interfaith studies, and last many years, decades, I've been raising my 4 children, which are now have all become young adults. So I'm looking into new things, and one of the things that I have ventured into is storytelling. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So now it's going to be Alon and me. Maybe Alon, I'll introduce myself briefly first, and then I'll hand over to you not only to introduce yourself, but to give some background to Elijah Interfaith and who we are. Is that okay? Okay. So I'm the Director of Educational Activities for the Elijah Interfaith Institute. You may pick up from the accent, slight as it is. I'm Australian by birth, in fact, 5th generation Australian by birth, but live here in Jerusalem, and very happy to do so. My area, or my background, is in education, and I still do quite a significant amount of teaching, but my passion is in the interfaith world. For many years, I represented the Jewish community of Australia in both local and interfaith dialogues, and then had the privilege of coming to work with Alon and to be able to bring together and work with people of all faiths, in fact, of 6 faiths. Trevor mentioned bibliodrama. I'm also trained in bibliodrama as a form or a way of opening up dialogue, and we will be having in the summer school one Zoom bibliodrama, which is a little bit different from the in-person variation, but still still worthwhile. I'm a mother of 4, grandmother of 7, we say so far. That's part of our, very important part of our lives, and very active in Women Wage Peace. And that's where I met Benedetta. And also I met David in some of the activities that are connected with interfaith and peacemaking in this part of the world. And as Rita said, this is a very tense time, and we do what we can. One of the things that I also do is blog on Times of Israel, and you're welcome to read my contributions there. For the rest, I'm going to leave for later and hand over to Alon.
We've just had someone joining us.
Yes.
Jadina is the email.
Jadina, I don't know if that's a name
who is
or...
the person and what's the name? So just let that person introduce themselves.
And please unmute yourself, yes. You'll need to unmute. We can't hear you.
Johnny Manuel.
Okay, he's not succeeding in unmuting himself.
He's Spanish.
Does that affect your ability to unmute? No, Monty unmuted herself perfectly well.
She's
hello.
There we go. There we go.
Sorry, I'm not very... Jean-Emmanuel, yes, Jean-Emmanuel Duena. I'm brother John Emmanuel. I don't speak very good in English, but I understand. And I'm very happy to meet you in this summer school. And I know good Alan and Therese. Okay.
Jean-Emmanuel is a Carmelite monk.
Carmelite monk, exactly.
A specialist in the Song of Songs.
Yes, Shirashirim, exactly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. How much time do I have, Peter?
You have 5 minutes to introduce yourself and 5 minutes to introduce Elijah. How's that?
And then Lekshe comes on?
No, then I'll say a couple of words about summer school and then Lekshe will be here. Yes.
So I myself once, twice, still twice. Once, twice. No. So I myself am initially or fundamentally a scholar of Jewish thought, theologian, who, as part of midlife crisis, as part of seeking a higher calling, as part of formation of religions and experiences, almost 30 years ago made an important career change, moving from primarily Jewish thought to primarily interreligious engagement. And the form that took was actually the summer school of the Elijah Institute. And from there, things built out. What drove me? One second, I'm having background noise here. There is, אני שומע אותך. אני לא יודע. שומע אותך. What drove me is a sense that I myself, through relationships, through studied, had experienced a higher understanding of how religions grow and how individuals can be transformed by interreligious encounter, and how we need a different modality to characterize our interreligious relations than competition, who's right, or let's collaborate. But there's actually a higher form, which is we can inspire one another, we can grow together. And moreover, all our religions need to grow because no religion is perfect. So just as human relationships require encounter and the ability to receive from one another, so it is with religions as such, and so it is with religious practitioners. And if you look around the Zoom room, you'll see just how many religious representatives, officials, people who profess religion, not just a curiosity, but as a deep vocation, there are. And that has been the profile of people we have drawn, both from the worlds of religious communities and the world of the world of academia. And so the process has been one of transforming individuals as a way of transforming religion itself through a combination of deeper understanding, friendship, openness to spiritual experience. And that has produced a kind of community of long-term change of people who feel nourished by it, mostly people with deep religious commitment, sometimes also people who are in quest and in search of their own path. So to a large extent, Elijah has been formed in view of my own particular experiences, and consequently also it occupies its own niche in the field of interfaith. Most of interfaith, as our friend Anna Trombachan, who can't be with us here, says, a sandwich and samosa. You eat sandwich, I eat samosa, let's have a meal together, or let's clean up graffiti on the streets. And our approach has been to tackle some of the deeper issues, some of the more thought-related issues, spirituality, deeper personal engagement. So this quest for transformation has been the drive, even as it is continuing to draw on my own personal experience and my own expanding network of friendships. I sometimes think I can't make any more friends. I've hit the limit, either quantitatively in terms of the number of people or qualitatively in terms of the number of religions. And I keep surprising myself by new friendships. So for instance, toward next week, we'll be meeting Nadir Saidi. I never thought I'd have a profound Baha'i friend, but lo and behold, it happened. And, you know, I'm always surprised at God's gifts of new friends from different faiths, from different religions. Now, what you need to know about me, other than this very, very important introduction I gave, are two things. One is that typically it's guesswork if I'm speaking seriously or jokingly. And Pita is a master of knowing when to read me which way. The second thing is that I'm utterly exhausted right now, having just come from California so that I don't have to run the program at 6 o'clock in the morning. But I've exceptionally and unusually for myself, I've more or less kept at bay about 15 jokes already because I thought, no, Alon, you're too tired. Whatever you're going to say to this morning is going to be off key. So I may not be as disciplined in the course of the coming weeks. I'm quite capable of saying things that are wild and outrageous. So I just want everyone to know I don't have a single nasty bone in my body, at least not as far as I know. If anybody gets hurt, send me a message, you know, offline. It's just a misunderstanding. There's never any nastiness, but there's a lot of playfulness. So that playfulness is actually very good for creating a sense of community, and typically people enjoy it, but unfortunately it's not on display today. The sense of community, I think, is a very important dimension of what we have at Elijah, and that runs across many different levels. The first community we ever created was the summer school community, which we created during the first summer school session in 1997. We started Elijah in 1996. I correct myself, the first summer school was in 1997. That led in turn to the creation of a community of scholars who is serving us, into a community of religious leaders, which is the Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders. And just in case you've come to this session somehow through some side alleyway, not being familiar with the different components and dimensions of what the Elijah community here. I see one of our religious leaders and teachers just entering. Then please go online and look at the Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders and the figures who are there. And it's been a great honor to be able to create that community. And so the summer school is drawing on all these elements, on the combination of academia and spiritual engagement and personal friendships, on the existence of the Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders, on the existence of a community of scholars. When we first started the summer school in Israel back in 1997, we imported teachers. So we had people coming in for extended periods of time, 2-3 weeks, and that formed a community. Now with Pita having come on board more than half a lifetime ago, we have a community that we readily draw on now, even on a format like Zoom. And Zoom for us has been a blessing because it's really allowed us to expand our reach into, just a second, I need to get the name right. It was Shah, but I didn't catch the first name of, what was Shah's first name, of Naina. As Naina commented earlier about the geographic expanse of our community. So it really is, I mean, we've got on the call 10 time zones right now spanning, which shows the and multiple continents. And it shows the ability of our message and community to build and to reach. And each person who's joining us is another stone. There's a teaching of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, one of my great spiritual heroes. He says, when a person joins a community, it's not just like you have one more person join a community. He says this in the context of a synagogue, but this is also true in this context. It becomes a multiple of. So let's say you have two people. So if you have two people, then only two, right? But you have three people, you think it's three, but actually it becomes six because you have all the potential combinations. And so with every person joining a spiritual community, the number of potential spiritual connections grows exponentially. I may be using the term wrong mathematically. So the point being that each one of you really becomes then a point of an emerging global community of people who seek not only to do good in practical and political and social activist ways, along the lines that David was saying earlier, but also along the lines of the spiritual transformative work. So it's been a great honor to create this community. It's been a great honor to continue. And God willing, tomorrow I'll be a little funnier.
Thanks, Alon. I just realized that I didn't introduce Tali. There she is. Tali, before we introduce our first teacher, Lekshe Tsomo, who's come in. I can't see her. She hasn't got a camera on yet. I hope she'll be able to do that. But before we do, Tali, I didn't invite you to introduce yourself, and you're absolutely pivotal in what's going on. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tali. I'm from London, but I now live in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and I work for Elijah. I studied religion and philosophy at university, and now I also went on to study film and documentary, but I like to keep the topics, what's the word, mixed together as much as possible.
Thank you so much. Tali is an absolute godsend to Elijah, I will say that. Lekshe, we still can't see you. So I wonder if you could see what you can do about your
we now
camera.
have to say Lekshe makes it 13 time zones actually, because she's back in Hawaii.
No, she's not. She's not. She'll tell you where she is.
She's in San Diego.
No.
She's in India.
No, you can keep guessing, but I'm going to ask her to see if she can get the camera on, because I think for a teacher it's tremendously fantastic, wonderful, tremendously important.
She's in a hotel room.
She'll tell you more where she is in a moment. So just before I introduce our first speaker, and I'm going to introduce with as much brevity as possible, I just think it's important that we understand the context of the topic that we're dealing with through this summer school, the fullness of the human being, what it is to be human. On October the 7th, everybody in this part of the world, and I think the world far beyond this part of the world, was shocked into a realization that the violence and our failure to have brought peace to the Holy Land is just staring us in the face. And one of the worst things about an ongoing conflict is the deterioration of respect of humans one for the other, the loss of human dignity, both to perpetrators of violence, to victims of violence. And on the 5th of October, we had a beautiful session gathering of praying together in Jerusalem. And Alon and I spoke, and I think we agreed without any doubt that our contribution had to be prayer. We had to pray more. And a number of people here mentioned, Imam particularly mentioned the power of prayer. We believe in prayer at Elijah and the people on this Zoom call. I think we all believe in the power of prayer. And we started meeting every week to pray rather than just the monthly praying together in Jerusalem that we had been holding. And Alon said, no, we have to think, what is Elijah's unique approach to all of this? Because when we pray together, as you will experience with us on Thursday, if you have not already experienced it, although most of you have already experienced it, but what we do in praying together in Jerusalem is we first learn and then we pray. and we learn from each other, and we learn with respect and interaction. And Alon said, you know, what's Elijah's best contribution? What is the topic? It's about the dignity of the human person. That was the most important thing that we could talk about in this difficult time. And since October 7th, we had first weekly meetings. Not long ago, we went down to once a fortnight. We are still meeting online and once a month in person. And the dignity of the human person. So it was natural for the summer school to expand that topic and look at what it means to be fully human. Lekshe Tsomo, who is...
I just want to say one thing, and that is that,
of course,
again, it's the power of that community. The idea was not Alon's. The idea came from Rabbi Jonathan Wittenberg, who is one of the members of the Elijah Board. And it's somehow in conversation with him, I was inspired to come up with the topic and to implement it. So you can see how, you know, one level of the community feeds another.
Yeah. So Lekshe was has been one of our teachers. In fact, I believe she's been on twice. Alon, when you speak, please, would you speak more into the microphone because it's difficult to hear you. Lekshe's been one of our teachers in praying together in Jerusalem more than once, but prior to that, she's been a very active and important member of the Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders. Tali will put into the chat a little bio, so we don't spend time. She's currently not in her home base and not in San Diego either. She'll tell us all where she is, and she's going to open the series of this summer school. And the format for all our presenters is going to be that the teacher will first offer a teaching, but you will be invited to respond, ask questions, and participate in conversation after the presentation. So for the moment, we're going to hear only from Lekshe. I'm going to spotlight her for everyone. Oh, there we go. We can see you in the center of the screen, and I'm going to hand over to say whatever words of introduction you would like, and then offer us your teaching. Thank you so much.
Okay. Aloha, everyone. And I'm very happy to join you this evening. I'm actually speaking from a small town called Miri in Borneo. It's East Malaysia in the federal territory of Sarawak. So I'm sort of in a distant location, and it's quite remarkable that we can get together by Zoom. So I'm here to help with the planning for the next Sakyadhita International Conference on Buddhist Women. We have a Buddhist women's movement afoot that began in 1987 in India, in Bodh Gaya, the place where the Buddha achieved awakening. So it's been going now for 30, 40, 35, 37 years. And our next conference will be held here in Sarawak in Borneo in June of next year. So we are all warmly invited. We are a very inclusive community, including men, women, ordained lay, and people of all faiths and no faith. Everyone is welcome. So my background is in Buddhist studies. And so as usual, the Buddhists will stir the soup a bit. And it would, if I were in the middle of the program, then it would come as a contrast to what came before. But here we're going to start out with something that's radically different from the theistic traditions, a different view of the world. So as I do with my students at University of San Diego, which is a Catholic institute, they had a Buddhist nun teaching, you know, Christianity to Christians and Buddhism to Christians. And so I've had some experience with talking across cultures, reaching across cultures to try to develop understandings. So I'm involved in interfaith since the 70s. When I say that the Buddhists come at the question from a radically different point of view, what I'm alluding to is that the entire cosmology the entire Buddhist worldview is very different. For one thing, the Buddhist worldview is based on the law of cause and effect. It's a natural process that operates impersonally in the universe, and an infinite universe, infinite in terms of time and space. So this universe has existed since beginningless time. So this is important to note because it affects the position of the human person in the schema, in the overall schema. The universe includes animate and inanimate phenomena, things. And the animate phenomena may be either sentient or non-sentient. By sentience, we mean having consciousness or awareness. And so that means that beings who possess consciousness are considered sentient beings. And sentient beings take birth repeatedly in the 6 realms of existence. It may be a metaphor, but it's also said to literally exist, these 6 realms of existence, which is called the wheel of samsara. So according to our actions, we will take rebirth in one realm of existence or another. Most of us here, the visible ones, are apparently human, but that is not the end of the story because there are also a large number of invisible beings. In fact, they may outnumber us. Who knows? Now we take rebirth in one of these 6 realms as a result of our actions. Actions literally meaning karma, but it includes actions of body, speech, and mind. So there are 2 heavenly realms in the schema. I have a picture, actually. Maybe I can share screen or at some point and give you an idea of how they...
You should be able to share the screen. It's
oh, okay. Okay. Why don't we try to do that then? And then, oh, now, can you see that? No. Okay, I have to go and share the screen. And, okay. Share. Okay, there we go. Can you see that?
You have started screen sharing. There we go. We can see it now.
Okay, good. So now I don't know how exactly to make it bigger, but I hope that you can see enough to note that there are at the top the long life gods. They take rebirth there as a result of their good deeds and also their wish to be born in heaven. Unfortunately, it's not permanent. Their lifespans are very large, very long, maybe 40,000, 60,000, 80,000 years. But when their merit or the consequences of their wholesome actions is exhausted, then they necessarily take another rebirth. And that rebirth is necessarily lower because the long life gods are the highest realm. But unfortunately, it's all impermanent. Their lifespans are impermanent, and they will necessarily experience what they call the sufferings of change and falling. All things are impermanent, and they will fall to a lower realm, which causes tremendous suffering at the end of their lifespan. So while they're in the long life God realm, they're sporting in pleasure, having a great time. They have everything they need. They don't need to work. They have no problems. They're joyful and yeah, everything's going great until their lifespan is exhausted. And they say that their bodies begin to smell, their garlands begin to wilt, and their friends don't come around anymore. So then they face the not only the prospect, the certainty of taking rebirth in one of the lower realms. Now, the second realm, at one time, the 2 God realms were united, but later they got divided. The second realm is called the demigods or the asuras. Now, these beings are gods, but they're more or less like the Greek gods. They're considered jealous, fighting gods. And they're beset by arrogance and pride and conflict, and never satisfied with having enough power. And so it's kind of a mixed situation. They do have a lot of happiness, but they also have a lot of sufferings. And again, this state, like all of these states, is impermanent. Now, the next realm is the human realm. Humans take rebirth in the human realm as a result of their wholesome actions of body, speech, and mind. And according to the Buddhist worldview, the human state is the most fortunate of all the 6 realms. And they say that because human beings have enough happiness to know that they like it, and enough suffering to know that they don't like it, and they have the intelligence to be able to distinguish what will bring them happiness and what will bring them suffering. In the human realm also, this is the realm that is most likely to evolve on the spiritual path. Given that human rebirth is not enough, actually, they talk about a perfect human rebirth. A perfect human rebirth would be one where the person has their senses intact. In other words, they have their hearing faculty, their visual faculties, their sound in body and mind. And with that, those endowments, that good fortune and endowments, and that they actually look into it in minute detail, what it means to be a perfect, perfect human rebirth. But in short, since our time is short, it means that they have their senses, their faculties intact. And so they're in good shape to be able to progress spiritually on the path toward awakening and liberation from this wheel of samsara. And so they would take that to be the ultimate goal, the ideal goal of a perfect human rebirth, or any human rebirth, but one with a perfect human rebirth has a better chance on it. Okay, the next realm is the animal realm. Now, the animals are beset by the sufferings of fear and stupidity. Not your dog, not my dog, but most animals are plagued by stupidity. And they also live in fear. We often, sometimes I say, oh, I wish I was a bird. I wish I was a horse. You don't want to go there. If you look at the lives of the beings, the sentient beings, I live in the country on 5 acres of land, and I hear the birds from morning to night searching for food and fighting with each other. Actually, it sounds like a song, but actually they're in conflict most of the time, and trying to protect their turf, make sure they get enough for themselves and their families. Sounds familiar. And so rebirth in the animal realm is usually quite unpleasant. Take, for example, the fish who live in the great ocean. It's really dark down there and it's really cold. And the smaller fish live in constant terror of being eaten, gobbled up by the bigger fish. So it's not really a fun place to be. And so best to be avoided. Okay, so the next realm is called the hungry ghost realm. Okay, the hungry ghost realm includes beings who are suffering from thirst and hunger. Terrible thirst, terrible hunger. They're actually pictured as having huge bellies and tiny little throats. So even if they should come across something to eat or something to drink, they can't manage to get it down. Even if they try to swallow, it turns into molten iron. So they suffer terribly. And you get born in the hungry ghost realm through greed and stinginess. Those are the causes. Now, the final realm and the worst one is the hell realms. There are many different hell realms, 4 cold, 4 hot, and 14 surrounding hells. And of course, I think a lot of people who grew up in Christian traditions, especially Christian traditions, I think, have a terror of the hells, and a lot of people don't believe in them anymore. I had a class of 25 Catholics. I asked how many believed in heaven and hell. Only one did. Yeah. Overall, a survey of Americans said that 83% of Americans believe in heaven, and 90% of those believe they're going there. Only 6% believe in hell, and only 2% believe they're going there. So, it's a matter of perception, right? In any case, the Buddhists really don't care what you believe in. It's just a natural causation. Certain actions lead to certain consequences. There are ways to purify the mind and to purify these consequences, but overall, it's an impersonal system. So you'll notice there is no creator figure, no director of this movie. We are the directors of our own movie, and we are responsible for our own actions. So this is what I mean when I say the Buddhists are sort of on a different wavelength in terms of cosmology. And so you can pose questions at any time. The figure at the top is Yama, the Lord of Death, Y-A-M-A. Yama is a legendary figure. He was around way before Buddhism began. So it's not just a creation of the Buddhists. He is holding the wheel of life in his fangs, and he's ready to pounce on us at any moment. Death can come at any time, and then all of us will be subject to rebirth in one of these realms. So, yeah, so that's wheel of samsara, and that's the Buddhists are trying to free themselves from this wheel. There is no savior figure in this tradition. The good news in Buddhism is not as good as, say, in the Protestant tradition, Catholic tradition. We have to do the work of transforming our own minds. We're responsible for our own thoughts, words, and deeds. So I'll get out of this now, and please note any questions you may have. Let's see, here we go.
You're right, Lekshe, we can see you.
Okay, good. So, okay, great. I can't see me, but anyway, just close down Yama here. And yeah.
How can you not see the me that doesn't exist?
Alon, we couldn't hear you. We could hear.
I said, how could she see the me if it doesn't exist?
Okay.
No, we exist. We exist. That is a misconception that the Buddhists believe in nothing. We take things as they are. There are existing phenomena. You exist, I exist. The question is that we don't exist as we appear to exist. We appear to exist very solidly, very permanently, but in fact, we're very impermanent, and there's no substrata to our existence. So Buddhists do not believe in nothingness. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And emptiness does not mean nothingness. You'll find this in a lot of books. I even just heard a university professor say that, but it does not apply to Buddhism, in fact. These realms are often taken to be metaphorical. And a lot of, say, Western Buddhists in North America or Europe, they prefer to interpret the wheel of life as a metaphor for the states of mind that we go through every day. I mean, for example, the alarm clock goes off. We're in the hell realm. Then we think coffee. Then we're in the hungry ghost realm. As soon as we get our coffee, we're in the heavenly realm, right? And then we notice we're late for work and we're back in the hell realm. So, in a sense, we do go through these realms psychologically every day. But then when people ask the Tibetan lamas, well, do these realms really exist? I say, you can think of it as all being in your mind, but in fact, they exist. So traditionally, this is accepted as the cosmology, and it is not unlike what went before in Buddhism. They also believed that there were other states of existence, that people are reborn, that sentient beings are reborn again and again and again. And we have been revolving in this cycle of rebirth since beginning this time. And we will continue revolving in it until we free ourselves from the cycle. How do we do that? By creating good deeds, developing wisdom, compassion, living in ethical light, and so forth. So within this schema, a noble person is one who is purest at heart. So one of the things that the Buddha rejected was the idea of caste, that we are born into a low station of society and we cannot get out of it. Now, we may be born into a low, economic or social or status with low intelligence or high intelligence or any other markers, but we can transform our situation. So the law of karma is, they say, inexorable, meaning that, if we kill someone, we're very likely to get killed in a future lifetime. It's not a direct equation, a life for a life and year for, year for an year or whatever. It's not, it's more complicated than that, because in addition to the causes, you also have conditions. So for example, you might surround yourself with questionable friends, and your karma may ripen faster than it need be. So that's just a rough example, but we can transform our karma at any point in the circle. We could be a horrible human being and then wake up one day and realize that it wasn't making us happy and it's not making the people around us happy. And then we can decide to change our life, change our karma. So it's all, again, it's impermanent in all respects. And so, so the Buddha taught that a noble person is one who is noblest at heart. So, but nothing is fixed. Even if a person is a liar, a murderer, a rapist, a treacherous person, they have the power to transform their mind and to literally become a different kind of person. So that's relevant to understanding the place of human beings in the world. First of all, this world is much larger than the planet Earth. It includes the entire universe, a beginningless universe, which actually accords with the scientific worldview. Every time they think they've found the ends of the universe, they develop an instrument that can actually reach further. And they have not yet found the ends of the universe, and I doubt that they ever will. According to the Buddhists, it's infinite, right? So the situation of human beings in this picture is extremely precarious. As you can see, we take birth if we're lucky. Some don't make it out of the womb. But if we do take rebirth, our days are numbered. I mean, life is a terminal condition, right? From the very beginning. We could live, a day, a month, a year, or maybe 100 years, but we don't know. We don't know when this human lifetime will come to an end. So that is why they regard the human lifetime as so precious, and time is very precious too. That achieving a human rebirth takes the accumulation of merit for thousands of lifetimes. It doesn't come easily. So becoming a human being is nothing to take for granted. And while we have a human rebirth, we should make the best use of it, not fritter it away. They tell stories of a beggar who was, rummaging around the dumpster and found a huge diamond, but not knowing what it was, threw the diamond back in the trash bin. So that's us. We have this precious human opportunity, and yet we fritter it away with silly stuff, irrelevant stuff. Nothing that's going to help us at the time of death. Nothing that's going to help us achieve spiritual liberation. And that is extremely foolish. So this is where the Buddhists take as their goal to overcome ignorance, all the delusions, especially greed, hatred, and ignorance. And ignorance is pivotal to the question, because without developing wisdom, we don't know how to choose the most beneficial actions in order to improve our situation. So we do this, we improve our situation through training our minds. It all depends on consciousness. And therefore, there are many practices. Meditation is just one. The Buddhists are famous for meditation, but that's only one way to practice. We can practice through generosity. We can practice patience. We can, there's so many different ways to accumulate merit and to progress on the path. So we want to use every moment as wisely as we can to develop wisdom and compassion and concentration and all the skills that will not only make us happier in this lifetime, but also bring us happiness in future lifetimes and hopefully liberation from the whole mess if we get down to it, right? And when they say practice, they mean like 24/7. It's not a Sunday morning thing or a Friday, Saturday thing. It's a full-time job to achieve liberation. And so, but it's up to each individual to take responsibility, make the most of the opportunity or not. It's free choice. Yeah, so sometimes karma is portrayed as being deterministic, but the Buddha rejected that concept that it's deterministic. And instead, as I said, teaching that we can change our karma at any time. We have the power to do that as individuals. But a lot of times, like I remember going into a vegetarian restaurant one time and, to make things simple, she asked my name. I said, Karma. She's like, Karma? You mean like karma's going to get you? I said, well, not exactly. That as if we are at the mercy of our actions and have no power to transform them, but when in fact we do. So, so that's basically the Buddhist answer to the question of the human person in the world, that it's an infinite world, it's an infinite universe, and that humans are just one possibility, one possible state of rebirth within this infinite universe, that we've been doing this for a very long time, since beginningless time. Someone asked the Buddha, how did it all begin? And he said, it's beginningless. So if we can wrap our minds around that, but it can come to an end. The wheel of rebirth can come to an end. So this was contained in the Four Noble Truths that the Buddha said to be his first teaching, that being alive is beset by dissatisfactions and suffering, frustration and all of that. That these frustrations, this unhappiness, these sufferings all have causes. Nothing happens without a cause. Everything that happens has a cause. And every cause will have a result. That's the law of cause and effect, operated by this theory of karma, or our actions. And so the third noble truth is that we can all liberate ourselves from the wheel of rebirth, the wheel of samsara. We all have that power. If not in this lifetime, then if we do well, we will develop skills, because not only does our bad karma, our unwholesome karma follow us from lifetime to lifetime, but also our wholesome karma. So why are some people prosperous and beautiful and, radiant and have so many opportunities? Well, it doesn't happen without a cause. It happens because they've created causes in the past that are now ripening in their favor, meaning that their wholesome actions are giving rise to happiness of various kinds in this lifetime. So, and that's considered a good thing. I mean, even wealth is considered a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a sign that you've been generous in the past.
Yeah. I'd like to invite you to wind up your presentation and open the discussion. I'm sure there are many, many questions and points of discussion that you've raised. So you want to just round up what you want to say, and we'll invite others to join the conversation.
I can wind up anytime. Yeah, it's fine.
So this is the opportunity for people to join in. I'm going to ask Alon to, yes, Alon, would you open?
I'd like to put forth two
But
questions.
Alon, we need you to use the microphone because we can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yes, much better.
Two questions of clarification. First is what you referenced as not having a savior figure, and then you said in this system. Now, what you presented, I believe, is sort of classical Buddhism, but then there have been various.
Alon, you're moving that. We're losing the microphone.
I guess my microphone also has not had enough sleep.
Yes.
So you said in this particular system, you spoke about you sort of when you spoke about the fact that there isn't a saving figure, you said in this particular system, but there are systems with a saving figure, and I was also interested by the fact that I thought that the branch of Buddhism you belong to, namely Vajrayana, also had a saving figure, and not only various forms of Mahayana Buddhism. So could you discuss the diversity of options of having a saving figure in relation to the entire process? Now, the second question I want to ask is about what seems to me an inbuilt tension in the place of the human person in this sixfold cosmic scheme.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, it seems to be the best because it's the most balanced, the path that allows you the greatest possibility for change and evolution. On the other hand, it doesn't really seem to be the ultimate or the highest. So what makes it best? Just the ability of discernment, or that's where the most breakthrough to true liberation happens? Because the gods and the asuras just wallow in their delight and don't use wisely the opportunity for liberation. What is it that actually makes human birth the best?
Well, I think you just summed it up very nicely. You know, it's that you have a balance between happiness and suffering, and you have the intelligence to understand what will lead to happiness and what will lead to suffering. And in addition, it is also the most fortunate state of existence from which to achieve liberation or evolve toward liberation. And if we don't make it in this lifetime, at least we've created the seeds of what they call merit or wholesome actions that will enable us to achieve one of the higher states of rebirth, the three on the right, rather than the three states of rebirth on the left, which are suffering states, where the beings are suffering so much or are so stupid that they don't even get a start on it. Occasionally there's a breakthrough. I mean, there's one story of the Buddha being born in a hell realm, and when he saw his companions suffering so much, laboring under a heavy load, he actually generated compassion and a wish to be free from, that his friend would be free from this state. And that moment of compassion led to great advances in his own spiritual evolution. I mean, we're talking about the person who later became the Buddha. As to your first question about the savior figure, this is important to, I'm glad you raised that, because Buddhism, as you know, is extremely diverse. The tradition originated about 2,500 years ago, and it spread out all through Asia, and even now, of course, to the West as well. And wherever it went, it met the conditions of the pre-existing traditions, beliefs, philosophies, religious practices. It was quite flexible in responding to the earlier systems. For example, they usually didn't just kick out the earlier gods. They would absorb them, the people in these different cultures. Like from India, the Buddha was born in Nepal and taught in India, right? And it then spread to Sri Lanka and over to Burma and Thailand and Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam, Indonesia, up to, all throughout Central Asia was all Buddhist at one time. Uzbekistan and all those places, and then to Mongolia and up through Russia, to Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and China, all of China. And in each case, Buddhism encountered a pre-existing tradition. Now, sometimes the people were animists and they were happy to have some, pretty gods come in, and they accepted it wholeheartedly, and they would just use the spirit beings for certain occasions, right? In other situations, they would bring these pre-existing gods into the Buddhist tradition as protectors. So when people say that the Buddhists are atheists, that's not the case, because they're gods all over Buddhism. It's just that they're considered worldly gods, and the Buddhists do not rely on them. They rely on those who are fully awakened, because for them, the gods are still in samsara. And, it's like, why would you go to someone who doesn't know how to swim to teach you how to swim? If they're still wandering, if they're still spinning around in the wheel of existence, how can they help you get out? If they knew how to get out, they'd be out already, but the gods are still in the wheel, see? So they don't go for refuge to the gods, but they don't deny them either, right? So now what happens later on for example, in China, there came a belief in what is called the Pure Lands originated. And this was a state which is neither completely in samsara nor completely out of samsara, but it's a very fortunate state. It would be a contemplative state in which one can receive teachings on a very deep level full time. And as a result, it's rather easy or much easier to achieve awakening or enlightenment, right? So as this theory evolved, then people want to believe in something, right? So it came to, in China, they developed this belief that one particular Buddha had made a vow to help liberate sentient beings if they called on him. And so you got this belief in Amitabha Buddha. And in the beginning, it was a visualization practice. You visualize the Buddha, and you try to embody the qualities of the Buddha. But in Chinese, the character for Mian to reflect on, and the character for to recite is the same pronunciation. And so they began to recite the name of that Buddha as a practice. And this became wildly popular throughout China and Japan, and still is. It's the largest denomination in the United States also, with 250,000 people. It doesn't get much attention, but it's very, very popular. So you recite, there was one, they recite the name of Amitabha as many times as they can. And then a teacher came along and said, oh, you just have to recite it once with great faith. And then you'll be born in the Pure Land of Amitabha, and then you can get enlightened easily. So religions evolve over time. That's natural. And that happened with Buddhism also. So that's your savior figure. But I think what I actually said was creator figure. Maybe I said savior figure too, but the creator figure. Yeah, I said both, right? So there is no creator God in this system either.
So
Right?
in Vajrayana, there's no savior figure?
No. You have to save yourself.
Avalokiteshvara doesn't fulfill that.
Alana, again, we're having trouble hearing you.
Avalokiteshvara does not fulfill that function?
Avalokiteshvara is a bodhisattva, and still on the path to perfect Buddhahood. And so not portrayed as a fully enlightened Buddha, but as a bodhisattva. So in order to become Buddha, one generates the thought of wishing to liberate all sentient beings from suffering. Who can do that? Only a fully awakened Buddha can do that. And so they take refuge in the awakened ones, and there's not just one Buddha. Remember, there are infinite Buddhas in this system. So Amitabha, for example, is a Buddha, but not the one of our historical era. So it becomes rather complicated, but we have stories there in the text. All the traditions realize that there are previous Buddhas and there will be future Buddhas, including you, including me, including all of us, that we are all eventually will become free and will all become perfectly awakened. That's the premise of the tradition.
Thank you. Could I just ask if anybody would like to make a comment, ask a question, join the conversation, would you please use the symbol of hand raise, and Tali will see it and bring you into the conversation. And yes, I wanted to perhaps strengthen the question about the superiority of the human being in a scheme where you have these gods. Is one thing that's not entirely clear to me. The other thing is the place of morality. If you are doing good in order to improve your own state in a future life, that's not really what we consider normally morality. It's not altruistic. And so what is the place, and where does morality as such come into this scheme that you've described?
Okay. Well, the gods are superior in the sense that they have the highest happiness and do not have to experience the sufferings of the other realms. They're just pure pleasure, pure pleasure. But the problem is because they're involved, they're engaged, they're entranced by this happiness, they don't care to create wholesome actions, which is also speaking to your question about ethics. But in the God realms, they're having so much fun. Why should they go out and engage in wholesome actions? They already have what they want and more. And so in that sense, as the experiencers of joy and pleasure, they've got it made. But in terms of creating the causes for liberation, it's a zero. They're using up their good karma, and they're not creating any more because they don't see the need for it. So that's why the human situation, the human rebirth, is superior in terms of spiritual evolution. We could call it spiritual evolution or the path to awakening, as the Buddhists would say. Now, the place of ethics, well, philosophers will debate the difference between morality and ethics, but let's use the term ethics, or ethics is good, or morality, basically the same. It's not that it really depends on your motivation. If you're practicing generosity just to get your name on a plaque, then your motivation is very weak. It's defective because it has self-interest involved. Therefore, it's not a pure motivation. So the action is not only the quality of the particular action, such as, generosity is better than stinginess. It also depends on why one is giving. So just taking generosity as an example. If one gives without thought of reward, without any concern for getting something in return, that's a pure action. It depends also on the nature of the giver, the nature of the receiver. For example, those who are holding precepts, for example, they've taken a lifelong vow not to kill any living being, then the merit that they create is far stronger than an ordinary being who's going around killing stuff, right? And the nature of the receiver, I mean, according to the moral status of the receiver, also the results of the action will vary. The circumstances, I mean, if you're doing it because people are watching you and you hope to get a good reputation, that's an inferior motivation. And the results of that action will be less than one who does the same action, but with pure motivation. So
there's a double reward in it.
Yes, right. It increases the reward. They even have a system in the Tibetan tradition that any meritorious deed that you create on a full moon or a new moon is worth more than on other days. So that's why you'll find Tibetans being vegetarian on the full moon and new moon days, when they might normally not be vegetarian, right? They'd save a life on those days because that's so meritorious, worth even 100,000 times more than usual. And then they have the 4th lunar month is also considered a very special time because the Buddha was born, achieved awakening, and died on the full moon of the 4th lunar month. So if they create a good deed, like saving of the life of a sentient being on that day, oh, it's worth 100,000 times 100,000. So people would definitely want to be vegetarian that day.
Wow. Well, you should
Yeah.
know that in the Jewish calendar, we've just passed the full moon of the 4th lunar month. So that's our 4th month. We have 2 people who've indicated they'd like to ask questions. So I'd like to invite Benedetta first, and then we'll hear from Nayana. Thank you. You'll need to unmute.
Thank you. It was super interesting. Thank you so much. I have a question. First, I would like to see if I got the things correctly. I was wondering, so it is correct that like eventually every soul is meant to achieve samsara, correct?
Well, okay.
Sorry, to end samsara, to achieve enlightenment. Sorry.
Okay. Actually, the Buddhists don't use the word soul. They use the word consciousness. The reason is that the soul sounds very permanent. So something very ongoing, something very substantial. And the Buddhists don't accept the substantial existence of all phenomena. Phenomena exist, but they don't have an essence. They don't exist substantially or concretely. So they use the term consciousness instead, and it's impermanent. It's a stream of consciousness, or more properly, a stream of conscious moments. One giving rise to the next, according to the law of cause and effect. Yeah.
And so this consciousness, each consciousness eventually can achieve the fact of ending this stream.
Yes.
So I was wondering, Jewish tradition has loved to meditate about and discuss about what like the Mashiach will look like, in what time it will come, and etc., and have very peculiar discussion, very detailed discussion about that. And I was wondering, did the Buddhist scholar had also a reflection on like what kind of consciousness will be the last one to achieve this enlightenment, and for what reasons maybe?
Okay, well, love, or as the Buddhists say, loving kindness is a really crucial practice, overcoming all kinds of hatred and aversion and anger also. So love is a really important quality that all Buddhists practice and meditate on, especially when people are nasty to you. You know, it's a great antidote to anger and hatred. And so now, the quality of the state of mind at the last moment before becoming fully awakened, that's a really good question. I had not ever received that question before. Of course, we can't know exactly until we get there, but one can imagine that it would be a state of perfect wisdom and perfect compassion together.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And Nayana, could I invite you to come and ask your question and make your comments?
Yeah, so I think I lost some like consistency. So basically, you were saying that if someone is prosperous and is doing well in this current life, then probably that person, it's kind of the fruit of something that was done in the past life. But on the other hand, I just feel fruits. Yeah, I mean, basically, this, and then you were also saying that how human life, there is an opportunity, like, is the best option because it has both suffering and happiness. And so I was thinking, like, usually, like, what I've seen and like what I've experienced in my own life is that when there is suffering and like there are obstacles and actually there are problems, not just everything working well, is when there is larger probability of you making spiritual progress. And that's part of the reason why human birth is more precious. And so I feel like it's almost like if you're prosperous and everything is going well, there's less likelihood that you'll make spiritual progress. And so I felt like that seemed almost like would not be a good thing to have in the sense of making spiritual progress, because it kind of is inconsistent with the idea that why human life is better for making progress. So if like you have hardships, then you might make more spiritual progress. And a lot of people come to spirituality and like start thinking beyond like materialistic things when there are obstacles in their path. And so there was something that was not kind of sounding consistent with what you said.
Yes. Well, of course, because our time is limited, we can't get into all the details of all of it, but what you say is really relevant. Because from the Buddhist point of view, it really depends on how you make your wealth. Did your wealth come to you in an ethical way? And then second, how do you use your wealth? If you sit on it like most of the 600 billionaires in the United States, then you're stopping the flow. You have the opportunity to create tremendous merit, but instead of feeding hungry children, you're just stashing it away in Caribbean bank accounts, and it's not benefiting anyone. And, having grown up in a pretty prosperous environment, growing up in Malibu, I have been in contact with a lot of, prosperous people. And I can assure you that happiness is not guaranteed. Wealth per se does not guarantee a happy life. It can be a factor, a positive factor, contributing factor to happiness used well, but it's no guarantee of happiness. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just not just worrying about happiness. I was thinking more in terms of spiritual path, like that it almost feels like if you're not prosperous, you have higher probability of making spiritual progress than if you are like prosperous. And so I just didn't understand why that would be the consequence of something that is good, because that seems to be like slowing down your spiritual progress than making it better. So
well, you're right in a sense, but then we can't say that obstacles will automatically help us progress on the path either. Look at people people who have enough have spare time for meditation, and they have enough wealth to share, to create, good actions, to using their wealth wisely to help other sentient beings. So experiencing obstacles that can actually be deadening to people who have to work 3 jobs just to feed their families. They don't have time to, they might stop by the temple once in a while, but they don't have time to really put in the effort to make huge steps on the path to awakening in most cases. So it really depends on the circumstances. Again, causes and conditions, right? Yeah. Good.
And now I get it. Like when you were being prosperous, you were not necessarily meaning like just that someone who has some kind of privilege, basically, to be able to practice and have the time. So if I think of it that way, then maybe it makes more sense.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. And that idea of privilege is very relevant here too. It's not just about wealth, it's about all the markers of privilege that make it easier for some people than others. But we would never wish to encounter, there's nothing of this glorification of suffering that you see in certain traditions. No, suffering is, it could propel us to see life in a different way, but the outcome, our decisions are not necessarily influenced to propel us on in terms of spiritual development. No, not necessarily, right?
Thank you. Thank you both for the question and for the response. Is there anyone else from the group? Would anybody else from the group like to ask something? May I, Lekshe, take advantage of your presence to also ask about something that Lum pointed out to me in the chat, and you'll see that it's going to be part of this summer school, is that prayer, you mentioned meditation, but prayer and meditation are very much a part of what we do at Elijah, and the future days of the summer school will indeed open with prayer. But if there's no one listening, you mentioned there's no one in control. And I wondered whether you could speak a little bit about what is the meditation if it's not aimed at a listener? Could you say a bit about that, please?
Good. Okay, great. Thanks. Yes, meditation is designed to learn to stabilize the mind and to develop wisdom. It's not a petition. The Buddhists don't do like prayers for stuff usually. I mean, I'm not, of course, it can happen, you know, in a temple, in certain locations where they pray to pass the exam or good health for their parents or something like that. That's normal. That's understandable, but that's not what the Buddha was really talking about. When we use the word prayer, it's more in terms of contemplation, to understand the teachings on a deeper level. And that would also entail concentration, developing what they call single-pointed concentration, which they develop through practices called calm abiding. So we focus the mind on a particular object. It can be basically anything. It can be, you know, in the Tibetan tradition, they meditate on the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for example, images, right, which they don't worship. The Buddhists don't worship these beings. So that may appear when we bow down that we're worshiping them, but we're paying respect to them. So that's another huge misconception that people have about Buddhism, that we worship, you know, golden idols and stuff like that. It's a whole different cultural context of paying people bow to their parents in India. I mean, in the morning before they go to school and the evening when they get back from school. It's just a matter of paying respect, but some people misinterpret it to be an act of worship. So prayer is not a petition for things. It can include aspirations. For example, may all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May we achieve liberation from the wheel of samsara. May we become fully awakened in order to be able to help others to achieve liberation and be free from suffering. These kinds of aspirations are what the Buddhists mean by prayer. There are many different kinds of meditation. They say the Buddha gave 84,000 teachings, and each one was designed for contemplation or meditation. So there are just thousands of techniques or methods for learning to train the mind. Loving kindness, for example, you put 3 people in front of you, a friend, an enemy, and a stranger, and you practice generating loving kindness for all of them equally. And we can do a whole weekend on that, meditation retreat on that. So we also do prayers for the oppressor, particularly sending loving kindness to those who are rude and nasty to us. So this has many benefits. It helps us to overcome anger, hatred, aversion, and so forth. It also creates peace in the world, right? So we do pray for world peace. But again, it's an aspiration. May all beings be free from suffering. May peace prevail in the world. May the world be free from hunger. May the world be free from thirst. All these kinds of you could say petitions, but it's not for material stuff, right? And there doesn't need to be someone from whom we're expecting boons or responses. Now, again, there may be Buddhists in certain countries that may be asking for a boon, like that they will be assisted at the moment of death, for example, that we talked about earlier. But generally speaking, it's more in the form of an aspiration.
Is that one of the things that distinguishes human beings from other levels of sentient beings, the ability to pray and reflect?
Good, you got it. You got it. Yeah, you got it. That's exactly right. Because, you know, the animals are asleep or and the hell beings, the hungry ghosts, they certainly don't have time. And then the gods don't need anything. So why would, they wouldn't even generate the thought. So yeah, perfect. You got it.
Thank you. I'm just again asking, I would love, sorry for the bang, I would love to hear of anybody else in the Zoom. We have many other people who haven't said anything. You feel free. We'd love to have you participate and ask your questions or even make a comment. Anybody who would like to do so? I can hear a stirring.
Yeah, I would like just to have I don't have a question. I have many answers in addition, but I don't have a question right now. I would like just to say how much I appreciate your answers, and I would like to thank you very much for the blessing that we have hearing you, and the merit that both you and us gained in the process.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? Lekshe, I'm going to invite you if you would like to say anything in conclusion, in summary.
A second, Peter, can I then ask one more
question? Of course.
Can I ask about your selfish gods? Because basically your gods are very selfish.
The demigods, the jealous fighting gods.
But also the good gods, they're also selfish. They're just engaged in their pleasures and that's it. So that
Well, they're sort of consumed by a thirst for power.
Okay, so that makes them selfish in another way. But how did they get to be gods? They got to be gods by generating merit. How did they generate merit? By having loving kindness and consideration of others. So the path to godhood passed through being considerate of others, and then when they made it to godhood, they lost the skill that brought them there. Now that seems really weird.
Well, again, their motivation might have been mixed. They might have been doing good deeds, but with an impure motivation for their own power, for their own authority, for their own gain. So that would lead them to a fortunate rebirth. But again, because their motivation was contaminated, was tainted, then they don't get a purely good result from that. They don't get even into the long life God realms. They're in the demigod realms.
No,
like
I'm talking about the
Greek
top
gods, right?
No, I'm talking about the gods, like the top level, right?
Oh, the top level? Well, that's not necessarily selfish. I mean, we don't know their mind state because they're just having a good time. They're sporting in pleasure. They're enjoying the fruits of their wholesome actions. And so they're consumed with the experience of pleasure, and they're not necessarily thinking of themselves or anyone else. They're just indulging in pleasure.
You can have pleasure without thinking of yourself even or others, or of how you got there. Just pure pleasure.
Why not? It's said to be
I have to try it
pure
sometime and
pleasure.
I'll tell you, okay?
Okay. Yeah, the jealous fighting gods, the demigods, are more or less like the Greek gods. They're just like us, but they're more powerful.
I think when you opened and said that we're going to be hearing something very, very different for our opening session, I think that everybody will agree that you've really opened our minds to a completely different way of thinking about the nature of being human and the meaning of being human. It's going to be a sharp contrast to the things that we're going to hear the rest of today. And of course, we will have Buddhist presentations on other days as well. But this was a wonderful introduction to the summer school, because I think everybody, including David, has learned. We've heard something new from a wonderful teacher, and we want to thank you very much for being part.
Do you want to finish up with some non-prayers?
Yes,
It
I'd
would
like
be
to.
lovely.
Yeah,
That would
I
be
would like
perfect.
to conclude with a loving kindness meditation, if you will, so that we can actually put into practice what we've been talking about. It's sort of like, talking about chocolate or even writing a book about chocolate, but it really doesn't mean much until you taste the chocolate, right? So if you wish, if you would like to join, then we could sit quietly in a comfortable position. We'll have to do a short meditation because of time constraints, but we begin by sending loving kindness to ourselves. If we don't have loving kindness in our hearts, what do we have to share with others? So we imagine filling our entire body and mind with loving kindness in the form of a gentle golden light that permeates every cell, every molecule of our bodies to overflowing. And this loving kindness displaces all unhappy thoughts, all grudges, all negative experiences in the past and replaces them with pure loving kindness. Next, we share this loving kindness with everyone in the room, whether we're in the classroom or in our families, our monasteries. We imagine sharing loving kindness with all of those near and dear ones. Imagine each and every one of them also filled with this golden light of loving kindness. Expanding out further, we imagine sending loving kindness to everyone in the town where we live. The people we know, the people we don't know, the people we like, the people we don't necessarily care for, and perfect strangers, all equally filled with loving kindness. Extending our loving kindness even further, we send love to everyone in the country where we're staying. Be sure to include the animals. Imagine each and every sentient being in our life, country where we live, filled with loving kindness. And then expanding even further to include everyone in the whole world. Imagine them all peaceful, happy, full of loving kindness. Remembering especially those who are suffering from hunger and thirst. Suffering from illness and approaching death. Those who are politically oppressed or incarcerated. All of those who are lonely or neglected. All those who are depressed or facing mental health issues. All of those living in conflict areas on both sides. May they all be happy. May they all be peaceful. May they all be free from suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. What a
Ali,
beautiful.
could you send Lekshe and me into a heaven of our own in the form of one of these chat rooms on Zoom, so I can talk to her alone for a moment? We'll make it the higher gods one, so there's no Asuric behavior.
And the rest of us will return at 6:15 Israel time, which is in about 20 minutes, 21, 22 minutes. 6:15 Israel time, we will resume with the next session. So I want to thank you again, Lekshe. It's been marvelous as always. And thank you everyone for participating. And I look forward to seeing you in about 20 minutes. Take a break, stretch your legs, have a drink, and we'll see you back on the Zoom.
Tali, you heard my request? Is she there? Tali?
Otherwise, I should be able to open a room for you. Just let me see.
I requested to be sent into a chat room with.
Did you see it?
No, we're not getting the.
You have to accept.
Yeah, but I'm not getting the request to accept.
Rest of us, please feel free to turn off your cameras and mics or leave and come back. We'll see you at 1:15.
It's not working. It says it's there.
Break up. Shall I have a look, Tully? See whether I can do anything? Assign automatically, assign manually. Okay, I'm going to assign manually. Now, how do you assign manually? Create. I want to create. Assign. Okay, I'm going to assign Alon Goshen Gottstein and Tsomo to a room. Do you see it now? Do you find it?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you, Petra. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Your good communications. Yeah.
All the best. Thank you.
Carry on.
Thank you, sister, for a wonderful presentation.
Okay. We'll see you back at 6:15 in
See you. Bye-bye.
20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Bye.